Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crusade, or welcome back to the Crusade. Now, today I wanted to take the time to do something a little more different than the usual content, mainly to discuss the Iron Age and what I'm doing or planning to do to engage with it. There will also be artwork of mine based around and on these projects that I'm going to discuss, displayed throughout the video, including a few concept pieces, both working and discarded, some of which, if not all of which, can be found on my Instagram. Link for that will be in the description below. For the uninitiated, the Iron Age is, from what I understand, now I could be wrong, so please let me know if I am, if you know a little bit more about it than I do. Anyways, the Iron Age is something or somewhat of an alternative media movement, spanning comics, novels, and other forms of text, with the creative philosophy of old to make timeless and entertaining stories, while also, attempting to remain as apolitical as possible, etc., etc. But as for how I'm going to engage with it, or am engaging with it, to preface, many of the projects I'm going to be giving the behind the scenes of or breakdowns of were things I was making either before the Iron Age, or at least before I knew of its existence. A big thank you to Shadiversity and A Drink with Crazy for that revelation. Link to those guys as well in the description below. So I'll start with the main two that I'm currently working on. So both of these projects are novels, one of which is a zombie apocalypse themed story, and the other is a supernatural western styled story. To start off with the aforementioned zombie apocalypse styled story, it's going to be called Dayz of Despair, Dayz with a Z, and is planned in my mind at least to run over or span over 3 books. With the first setting up the second book, subtitled Horde Wars, what with the world building, introduction to main characters, introduction to main conflicts, individual conflicts, world conflicts, probably the main villain, all that kind of stuff. The second book will then, of course, lead into the finale, or the third book, which will be titled either Enemies of Self or Enemies Within. Still kind of like it's kind of a working title for that one. But yeah, we're in the titular gang. We'll need to work through the fallout and aftermath of all that happened in the second book, in Dayz of Despair, Horde Wars. Hopefully it won't take too long for the first book to be finished. I'm currently about a sixth of the way through, at least through the initial writing of it. There's obviously got to be editing and proofreading and stuff done after it. But yeah, so looking good on that front. Moving on to the second main project, which I'm quite enjoying writing actually, which is of course the supernatural western called The Good, the Bad, and the Cursed. Kind of a play on words of that classic western title, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This book will follow the journey of Werris One Shot Jones as our titular character. She is a former member of a group known as the Hunters Inquisition, and a retired bounty hunter / monster hunter, and formerly Mrs. St. John. The journey in question is one that I really want to be of revenge, great and deep personal growth for both her and other characters that will probably become mainstays, staples of the story, but also of discovery, and of course one full of twists and turns along the way to make it obviously exciting and interesting, while also taking inspiration from things like The Witcher 3 and other media with a similar format or formula, for the feel of many of the little tangents and side quests that the book may very well go down with Werris's monster hunting antics and stuff like that. This story, much unlike, or very unlike Dayz of Despair, is really only planned to be a self-contained, singular story, novel type thing. But obviously with enough left open for the option of building upon the world and characters and all that stuff through later media, if I feel that it's, like as if it's needed, or if I really feel that I want to tell more stories through it. Personally, I think it would do quite well as maybe like a comic series, maybe even a TV show, but then again, with how writing's going in that space now, I probably wouldn't be too confident in anything like that, ever, being good enough to get my approval. Now, obviously, I don't want to give too much away for these main projects, or any of these projects, because the more I give away, the higher chance I take of, risking to spoil everything for people, which means that no one's going to want to read it. I mean, some of you probably don't anyways, but, yeah, but I do hope that I've given enough information about them to get you excited for one of them, or some aspects of them. So hopefully if that's the case, stay tuned. Because I might be doing other videos on these two projects, mainly, on the channel. But now, it's time to give you a little bit about the other projects I have floating around in the back of my squishy little brain bits. The first one, the one that I've actually put a decent amount of work into, is a superhero kind of story thing that I have affectionately called the Legendarium Contest of Champions. This is one that I've had to put on the back burner because, as many of you know, comics are very difficult to get going. This isn't to say that I'm not passionate about the project, or that I don't like the project. I think it's actually one of the ones that I feel more passionate about, that I like more so. But it's just that I'd rather focus on doing things and completing things that I can do more feasibly. Like, the novels I've mentioned before. Because again, comics are hard and there's a lot to them. Whereas novels, I don't have to hire a team or anything. I can just write them myself. It's a lot easier and relatively cheaper to get done. Not too sure. We'll see how that goes when it comes to publishing. Anyways, another project that has unfortunately been put on to the back burner and in the corner is really one of, if not the story that started all of this for me in the first place. All the way back in early high school, was a fantasy novel series that I was writing, or wanted to write, with the working title of The Last Bethelanian. Now, despite a lot of the actual world building for this having been completed, including, races for the world, locations, histories, and even a full-on map, which again can be found on my Instagram, link again in the description below. The actual writing of the story itself became increasingly difficult. And it's not even like I got halfway through the story, then it got difficult. It was like the first 2 or 3 chapters, it got really difficult to write. But on the bright side, I'm hoping to make that one of, if not the first piece I move on to after completing the first book of Dayz of Despair and The Good, the Bad, and the Cursed. As I've had some fairly recent inspiration that I can't wait to try and put in the world to mold it to be a little better than what it currently is. Speaking of other novels, there may or may not also be a romance-styled novel in the works, set in a low fantasy medieval type setting, which doesn't have a title yet, but I think it'll be it'll be pretty good. Maybe. It's definitely one of the stranger origins. Has one of the stranger origins rather out of all of these projects. But I think that once that ball gets rolling, I think it could be quite the popular little thing. Yeah, but all in all, to conclude this little breakdown of my projects for the Iron Age, I just wanted to say that no matter what, or no matter which one of these tickles your fancy, I just want you to know that I really do wish and strive to deliver in-depth and living worlds to you all in future when these do eventually get published and released. Worlds with descriptions and characters so vivid and living that you feel like you're in the world, or at the very least that these are like real people. These characters are real people experiencing real things, even though they're really not. Yeah, and I just hope to bring a new and refreshing set of stories to people. And hope to fill the gaps in certain genres, in certain text forms and media forms. And I really hope to do it well. I really do. I'm glad that, there are people in my life who have been along for the ride on this journey, who have helped given input, been sounding boards and all that for that. So for all of you out there, you know who you are. I thank you so much for that. It means the world to me. But yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. So thanks for sticking around through my ramblings, my not so short little breakdown on some projects I've got in the wings. And stay tuned for some more videos in the coming weeks. Should everything go according to plan, there should be at least 2, if not more, videos coming out in the next little while. But yeah, until next time, trust in the Crusade.